funny, immediately before recording this, I recorded my video on how Ubisoft, this just like giant company, putting out these AAA games that are just selling like millions and millions of copies, just like billions of dollars coming in. Video about how they are tanking, just absolutely tanking right now. And now coming to this video, talking about how MonolithSoft, a comparatively modest little company, you know, by comparison to a very modest company, puts out Xenoblade games primarily, and then kind of helps Nintendo with other stuff. They're doing great. They're doing really great. And that feels great to say. You know, it feels really good to know that MonolithSoft, they're just doing great. Apparently, the thing they've got going with Nintendo is really working out. They're putting out these games that are probably like, you know, medium budget games. In some ways, they feel like they're kind of AAA. They're these really big experiences with these big worlds. But then in other ways, you know, it's not quite on the same level as these AAA games coming out of other companies. And none of the games sell like super duper well. You know, it's not like Mario and Zelda, blah, blah, blah. You know, each one sells like a few million. And yet, like, that's enough. And not to go into the whole thing, but it's the whole thing where it's like, you know, yeah, small successes, small to medium successes are okay. And Nintendo recognizes that. They are okay as long as you keep your budget in check. You have these well-managed projects that you do, and you put them out. You make your money. You pay your employees, and you go, okay, what's next? And you just make money over a period of time. It's a very nice model, and I'm happy to see that it's working. Monolith's chief creative officer, Tetsuya Takahashi, and lead programmer Michihiko Inaba had an interview with Japanese media outlet CG World, and they talked about how the company is growing, and they have plans to tackle bigger and bigger projects. Which is really great. They've proven themselves with Nintendo, both with their own games and again with helping Nintendo with all of this other stuff. They're really proving to be a real standout company. A bunch of real stand-up folks, real talented individuals. Right now, they're working on a new version of their in-house proprietary engine. And using in-house engines is it's a very Nintendo thing. You know, you'll see the random project here and there, like Yoshi's Crafted World or something will just like randomly be made in Unreal or whatever. I don't know what determines that. But for the most part, Nintendo and their, you know, first, second party developers, they like to use in-house engines that they have developed themselves. And Takahashi says, we don't currently have the option of using engines made by other companies. This is because in-house engines are easier to customize to suit our needs and are easier to use. And that does make sense, especially for them. They're mostly just making Xenoblade games. You might need something more flexible in certain ways if you're making a really broad variety, but it's like, we're making Xenoblade games. We're gonna keep making Xenoblade games. So we might as well have, you know, it's like a Capcom and like their RE engine, you know, they make all their Resident Evil games using that engine and it keeps working really well. I mean, they're making their other games using that engine too, and it works really well because they are intimately acquainted with the engine and how it works. And yeah, all that to say, it really works out for a company, but it's also very expensive. It's very expensive and time consuming to develop and to keep developing an engine like that. It just takes a lot of R&D. And the engine that they are working on right now is based on the one that they created for the original Xenoblade Chronicles, which came out in 2010. And their goal was to one day have a dedicated R&D team at their company to manage this engine. And good news, they're big enough now. They're big enough now. They make enough money. They're finally doing it. They're getting it. They just founded an R&D department in their company that can now work full-time on this Xenoblade engine. Yeah, Takahashi says this is something that they have wanted for a really long time, and they just didn't have enough employees. It just wasn't something that they could prioritize. But it seems that they started working with Nintendo and everything just started getting bigger. They just were doing bigger and bigger projects, and their needs grew. And of course, I'm sure Nintendo themselves, like, they're owned by Nintendo, so Nintendo themselves are probably contributing to this kind of thing. And they just finally got to the point where they were able to do it. And it seems that Michihiko Inaba is the one who is leading this new department, which is really cool. And now that they are able to do this, that means, in theory, this will lead to even better production, you know, even more efficient production on their games. The ability to make these games better and or faster, more streamlined. They can use this department to develop just new tools, new technologies. And it's cool. It's cool seeing the company do so well and just put out game after DLC after game after DLC. Everybody loves them. They sell good. This is working out well. And with the Switch 2 right around the corner, you can guarantee they're working on the next game. They're working on 4 or something similar, some kind of Xenoblade type thing. You can bet money on it, you know, even without it being confirmed. You basically know. You know, it's like there's a shoe on the floor and you put a box over the shoe and you're like, okay, well, technically, someone could have, like, sawed out the floor like a cartoon character and the shoe could be gone. That's technically possible. Wormhole, maybe, but it is a safe enough bet to say that shoe is still there in the box, and that's how I feel about Xenoblade 4. It's definitely happening, so it is especially important for them to make this move right now, right before Switch 2 generation really kicks off, because obviously this is really going to help in the development of future titles. And you know, maybe it is worth asking the question, what does this mean for us, the customers? You know, like, what could this growth actually mean? Like, does it really just mean more Xenoblade games, or just, you know, faster produced Xenoblade games, or just bigger and better Xenoblade games? Or in theory, could this mean more games, like, overall? Could potentially there be, at any given time, there's a Xenoblade game and some other side thing they're working on? Could they start throwing in more projects? I mean, they're obviously not a huge company if the reason they didn't have an R&D department was they didn't have enough employees, and now they do. That doesn't really suggest that they have enough employees to also spin off a whole other department that just produces a completely separate game from Xenoblade. I don't know if that's realistic, but at the same time, we always hear these stories about how they help with development for all these other Nintendo games with Zelda and everything. So, like, I don't know. Maybe. Does that mean there are some extra hands there? So yeah, ultimately, I really don't know. You know me, I always like the idea of just more games. Just more games is cool. So if they were able to throw in some other projects there, I think that would be nice. Maybe they don't want to be tied to Xenoblade forever, but now there's a market for Xenoblade games, so they kind of have to keep producing Xenoblade games. So I don't know. I really don't know. We will see. But for now, I'll just say congratulations to the MonolithSoft team, and even more congratulations to Xenoblade fans. You're gonna get it. You got everything you wanted this generation, and I bet next generation is not gonna be any different. None of this waiting around for years and years, just wondering if it'll ever happen stuff. Nah, you just kick back and just wait for it to fall into your lap. Must be nice.